They never looked away, not once, even when I was silent, even when I was broken, especially then. They stared like I was something unnatural, something wrong, something dangerous they couldn't name, but couldn't ignore, and I could feel it. Their eyes everywhere. Not the kind of watching that comes with love. No, this was different. This was the watching of wolves around a wounded thing, pretending they weren't waiting for me to bleed out. But I didn't. So they stared harder. At first, they laughed, said I was too quiet, too intense, too different, but deep down they knew there was something else in me, something that didn't belong to their world of comfort, lies, and pretty masks, something that didn't kneel. They thought they broke me, thought I'd crawl, beg, conform. But I just stood still, and they couldn't handle that. Because when you're unbothered, when you don't explain yourself, they start writing their own stories about you, dark ones, twisted ones. They made me a monster so they could sleep at night. But monsters don't flinch, and I never did. They called it pride. They called it arrogance. They called it evil. But it was just the refusal to die. Quietly. They didn't hate what I did. They hated that I didn't fall, because that terrified them more than anything. That I took the pain and didn't collapse. That I wore my scars like armor, not shame. They thought silence was surrender, but silence was strategy. I wasn't hiding, I was becoming. They stared, they whispered, they watched me like I was casting spells in the dark. But the real curse was that I refused to break, and that's what kept them awake at night. Not what I said, not what I did, but the quiet, unshakable truth that I was still here, still breathing, still watching back, with eyes that never blinked. They never said it to my face, never had the spine, but I heard it. Whispers, low, slithering, like snakes dragging their tongues through dirt. He's different, she's not normal. Something's off. They called it strange, I called it silence. They called it dark, I called it focus. They said I was casting spells, but the only thing I ever summoned was discipline. You see, they don't understand what they can't control, so they create stories. They write fables with my name stitched in fear. They dress their envy in religion and call me wicked. I walked in command, they trembled. I stood in silence, and they panicked. They lit torches. They prayed for my downfall. They whispered louder, she must be hiding something. He's got to be cheating the system. No, the system was never designed to hold me. I broke the system by existing. They needed a reason for why I kept winning, a reason that made sense to them, something supernatural, something evil, because hard work would shame them, because resilience would expose them, because my grind, it was louder than their excuses. So they branded me, not with fire, but with fear, whispered my name like I was a myth, a threat, a shadow moving too quickly to cage. But I didn't ask for their belief. I didn't wait for their understanding. I never once begged to be seen. I vanished on purpose, while they gathered in circles to talk about me. I was building thrones from rubble. I was rewriting fate with bloody hands and sleepless nights. They said I was cursed. Maybe I am. Cursed with vision, cursed with clarity, cursed with the kind of focus that turns bones to blades. But what they feared wasn't magic. It was me, unapologetic, unbothered, unbroken. I became the story they warned each other about, the name they couldn't forget, the presence that turned comfort into chaos. And the more I grew, the more they shrank. They whispered louder, but I never answered, because I wasn't listening. I was evolving. They see the trophies, but never the bruises. They see the climb, but not the bleeding hands that built each rung. Every time I rose, they called it luck. They whispered miracles, as if I hadn't clawed my way through nightmares just to breathe. No, there was no luck, only war. Every win was a war. You think I got here untouched? You think I stood tall without being broken first? I died 1,000 Deaths behind closed doors, buried by doubt, crushed by silence, mocked, abandoned, forgotten. And still, I rose. I bled for every inch, and I bled in silence. Because the world doesn't clap for your scars until you make them look like medals. They didn't see the nights I screamed into the dark. They didn't hear the silence that screamed back. They just saw me walk out of fire and wondered why I smelled like smoke. Let me make it clear. Every step forward was a battlefield. Every smile they mistook for peace was hiding a war cry beneath my tongue. I trained when no one watched. I fought when no one believed. And I won when no one thought I would. They wanted shortcuts. I took scars. They wanted comfort. I chose the cage, alone, locked in, with nothing but my demons and my discipline. And I let them fight. Let them scream. Let them claw until I could tame them. Until the monster they sent to destroy me began fighting for me. They called me obsessive. They said I was possessed. They didn't understand the cost of becoming unstoppable. But I know what I lost to get here. I know what I sacrificed. And I would lose it all again twice, just to taste this power one more time. They pray for wins. I train for war. Let them call it arrogance. Let them call it madness. Let them say whatever helps them sleep. Because when I close my eyes, I don't dream. I remember every fall, every bruise, every betrayal. And then I open my eyes and I sharpen my blade with their doubt. So don't talk to me about luck. Don't talk to me about magic. Every win I hold has blood on it. And every time I smile, just know I won another war to do it. They whisper like I made a deal with something unholy. Like I lit candles under a blood moon and summoned my success from shadows. They want to believe I cheated. Because the truth is far too terrifying. I didn't use magic. I used discipline. And that scares them more than any spell ever could. They think I cast something just because I didn't collapse like they did. Because I moved in silence while they screamed for attention. Because I disappeared for seasons and returned as something else. Something colder, sharper, unrecognizable. They called it witchcraft. But it was just obsession, unholy commitment, ruthless repetition. The kind that breaks most people long before it builds anything. You want to know the real trick? The real curse? I kept showing up. When it was dark. When it was lonely. When no one clapped. When everything in me screamed to quit. I kept showing up. I bled quietly. I failed publicly. I healed privately. And I returned without a sound. And somehow, that silence, it made them nervous. They couldn't read me, couldn't predict me, couldn't break me. So they called it sorcery. Because what else do you call a person who refuses to fold in a world built on surrender? I didn't wave a wand. I didn't chant words. I didn't burn sage or sacrifice souls. I just got up earlier, stayed longer, breathed deeper, worked harder, and refused to need their approval. That was the ritual. My spells weren't made of fire. They were made of focus. Hour after hour, day after brutal day, stacked like bricks. No applause, no magic, just mastery. They wanted it to be luck. They needed it to be luck. Because if it wasn't, if it was just cold, calculated effort, then what's their excuse? I turned my pain into structure, my chaos into schedule, my heartbreak into fuel. And that scared the life out of them. Because people can fight talent, they can pray against favor. But discipline is a language most of them never learned. They think I've got something dark inside me. And they're right. But it's not a demon. It's not a curse. It's consistency. And that's far more frightening. They don't understand how I keep rising. How I keep winning. How I keep showing up when everything falls apart. It's because I trained for that. I prepared for that. I built myself for that. This isn't charisma. It's calculation. This isn't charm. It's control. This isn't magic. It's muscle memory. See, anyone can chase a high, but I mastered the low. I found peace in the pain, stillness in the pressure, power in the parts they run from. They watch me move through hell like I owned it. And now, they whisper. Now they stare, because deep down, they know it wasn't an accident. It wasn't fate. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was me, waking up, locking in, locking out the noise, turning my habits into armor, my silence into spells, and my will into a weapon. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them fear what they don't understand. Because if discipline is witchcraft, then baby, I'm the last damn sorcerer alive. They stare like I stole something from them, like I took what was theirs, like I snatched it from their trembling hands in the dark. But I didn't steal. I built. While they whispered, I worked. While they envied, I endured. While they prayed for my fall, I became the reason they couldn't sleep. Their fear, it wasn't born from what I did to them. It came from what I became without them, without their approval, without their help, without kneeling. You know what fear tastes like when it isn't yours. It's bitter, sharp. It lingers in the back of their throat every time they see me rise. They call it luck. They call it timing. They call it unfair. But the truth is simpler. It was me. It was always me. Their fear has a flavor now, and I've tasted it too many times not to recognize it. It's envy dressed as concern. It's admiration hiding behind mockery. It's the applause they refuse to give me, so they call me dangerous. Instead, I walk in and they flinch. Not because I said a word, but because I didn't need to. Because I exist in a way they don't understand. Because I carry something they lost. Because I don't beg to be included. I dare them to exclude me. Let them watch, let them fidget. Let them pretend they're not trembling when my name enters the room. They were comfortable until I reminded them what discomfort feels like. Until I became a mirror, not of what they are, but of what they could have been if they weren't so afraid to burn. They wear their mediocrity like armor, but I turned my pain into a weapon, and now they can't look away, because I'm what happens when a storm learns to walk upright. I'm what happens when silence grows fangs. I'm what happens when the one you counted out rewrites the rules. You think they fear me. They don't even know why they fear me. They just do. It's in their eyes, in their forced smiles, in their sudden silence when I speak. They won't admit it. They'll hide it under jokes, gossip, false bravado. But you can't fake stillness when a lion enters the room. And I stopped chasing their respect. Now I let it crawl to me on its knees. Let them whisper. Let them point. Let them say my name with shaking tongues and bitter hearts. Because their fear tastes like envy. And envy is just love that turned to poison when it realized it could never become me. And that's not my curse. That's their punishment. They didn't see me coming. Because I never announced my arrival. I wasn't loud. I wasn't desperate for applause. I didn't scream my progress into their faces. I was quiet. Because I was building. They laughed when I vanished. They whispered when I went still. They called it a fall, but I wasn't falling. I was forming. I was sharpening my silence like a sword, carving my strength in the places no one dared to look, building muscle in the moments they thought I was weak. While they performed, I planned. While they partied, I practiced. While they begged for attention, I disappeared. Not because I was lost, because I finally knew where I was going. You see, the shadows became my kingdom, not a prison, not a curse, but a sanctuary. In the dark, I became dangerous. In the silence, I became sovereign. They thought the absence meant defeat, but absence is just evolution in disguise. They never heard my footsteps, because I was never chasing them. I wasn't behind. I was beneath, rooted, grounded, growing. And now they stare. Now they panic. Now they ask how I survived, how I rose, how I kept coming when everything should have broken me. But the truth, they didn't hear my screams because I turned them inward. They didn't see my pain because I wore it like armor. I made peace with isolation. I made allies of the shadows, and I made a vow to never need their permission. That's why I'm untouchable now. Not because I had more, but because I became more. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them scroll through their fake lives, searching for the secret I swallowed whole. There's no spell, no shortcut, no magic wand. Just darkness, discipline, and a desire so deep it could drown a god. And when I emerged, when I finally stepped into their light, I didn't come to be seen. I came to be remembered, because I wasn't built for the stage. I was built for the storm. And the throne I sit on now, it wasn't handed to me. It wasn't inherited. It wasn't gifted. It was carved by bleeding hands, by sleepless nights, by every silent scream I turned into strategy. They call it luck, but I call it earned. I didn't wait to be crowned. I became the crown. And now they bow, not because I asked them to, but because they finally understand you don't have to be seen to be unstoppable. You don't have to be praised to be powerful. You don't need their validation to own your empire. I was built in the shadows, but I was crowned in their silence. Let them watch. Let them tremble. Let their eyes follow every move I make, like it'll finally make sense of the chaos they can't control. Let them study me like scripture. Let them rewind my words. Let them measure my silence. But still, they'll never understand the language I speak, because I didn't rise to be understood. I rose to be undeniable. They watch me like I'm dangerous, like I'm cursed, like my success is something unnatural. They don't whisper about what I've done. They whisper about what I might do next. And that fear, that uncertainty, that's my favorite kind of silence. They think they're uncovering a secret. No, they're witnessing a prophecy. And I hope it haunts them, because I've already made peace with the shadows they fear. I was born in them. Let them flinch. Let them choke on their envy. Let their heartbeat quicken when they hear my name in rooms I never entered. I've given them no scandals, no excuses, no breakdowns. And that's why they're nervous, because they can't blame what they can't understand. They can't break what won't bleed. They can't shame what has no guilt left. I turned every stone they threw into a step higher. I turned every doubt into another layer of armor. I turned every lie into a scripture they now quote. And now they watch with wide eyes, pretending they always knew, pretending they believed in me. But the truth is, they watch me climb the mountain they built to bury me under. And when I reached the top, I didn't look down in revenge. I looked ahead, because forward is the only direction that ever mattered to me. So let them watch. Let them gasp. Let them call it witchcraft, madness, arrogance. Let them throw words like daggers I chew on steel now. Nothing soft remains. Their eyes are mirrors now. All they see in me is what they never became. This is the part they'll never tell you. They didn't hate me for winning. They hated me for surviving, without needing them. So yes, let them gather. Let them point. Let them kneel at the edge of the fire they swore would consume me, only to find I became the flame. Let them watch, because they can't stop it now. It's too late. I've already become everything they feared, and more. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them burn with the knowing that I'm just getting started.